Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Random. Egberto Will is your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a wonderful show for you today, as usual. Hey, the Epstein's files have been released. Oh, and they are invading the home of one of Trump's former, what is he called? Whose home is it being invaded? Yes, they're invading his home. But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Why can't these people touch on many stories at one time? I'm going to come to you guys in a minute. But why is it that they cannot do one thing? You know, from the time I woke up this morning, or not woke up, but when I started watching the news, it was about John Bolton. You know, okay, the FBI has swept his home, John Bolton. They have invaded his home, yes, John Bolton. They're searching his home, John Bolton. And that's it. That's all you know about it. John Bolton's home is being searched by the FBI. Whether there are reasons or not, we think it's just Trump trying to get back at, you know, Bolton, but who knows? But that's a small story. We also have the Epstein files being released at the same day. I wonder why did they do that on the same day the Epstein files were released? Because they didn't want a lot of discussion of the Epstein files, and then they released the transcripts. And in the transcripts, Maxwell says, you know, there is no Donald Trump. She has no knowledge of Donald Trump doing anything wrong, anything inappropriate. And for good measure, the same thing she says about President Clinton, right? So all these rich people who hang out with Epstein, they're all clean. Yeah, she went and got a whole lot of girls to do a whole lot of things. She took away the innocence of all these women, and even as the justice said that she had a whole bunch, that she had a list, they have her on record saying, Maxwell on record saying that there was no list of people who participated in these events. No master list, right? So this is all junk, right? I don't mean junk for the people, the women who went through the pain, but I mean, as usual in our patriarchy, they get away because we tolerate it, we allow it. I've been racking my brains. Bondi came out and said, oh, she had it. The FBI director came out and said there was a whole lot of stuff, but now nothing is there. And they have the word of Maxwell to say that the Trump folks were not involved. And for good measure, maybe since Hillary Clinton said that she would probably nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize if he got the stuff done with Ukraine, maybe Trump liked that and made sure that if, in case Clinton did anything with Epstein, hey, all these rich fat cats get away with taking advantage of women, and folks just accept it. Well, I just thought that it's something I wanted to lay out there. The mainstream media cannot do several things at one time. One of the reasons I wasn't covering the Epstein story is just because of this. Because again, they hyperventilate on one thing, and then when they get a story to take the Epstein off the front page, as they're doing with the Bolton home invasion, if you will. Not home invasion, but you know what that's called. Anyhow, welcome aboard, my people. Welcome aboard. We have Michael Rudnin, who came in first at from Brooklyn, New York. We also have Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Joe from Los Angeles, California. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. In the house, May Wood from Long Beach, California. We also have Lee Grant from Montgomery County. In the chat, remember we start late we start late, but the chat starts up a bit late by the time a lot of people have joined in. So I just want to give a big welcome. Hello to Independent Voter 1, Brandon D, Susan McAllister, Alice, Charlotte, Eileen Giardini, Laura Gomez, Louis Dyke, Sarah Dammer, Independent Media, Jenny Benjamin, Ronald Schiffman, John Davis, A. Davis, John Springsteen, Sue Sharko. How you doing, Sue Sharko? Sharon Campbell, Hirut Kidain Marian. Welcome aboard, folks. If you want me to call where you're from, please remember to put your city and state, as it's done on the other chat by all the others. Harry Denson is also in. Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Thank you all for being here. All right, let's get busy. The first thing I want to talk about is the obituary. Bridge MCP is in the house. Bridge is from Binghamton, New York. She says the Justice Department on Friday released what it says is the complete transcript and audio recording of Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's audio recording of Deputy Attorney with Ghislaine Maxwell last month. The transcripts running more than 300 pages in length are marked redacted. If you believe anything that's there, don't you think there was an arrangement between her lawyer and Blanche? The answers were just correct. Look at the answers to all the questions. They were just the right answers to get her to come to a minimum security prison here in Texas. Yep. How else do you explain it? Patrick Magner says meow from Houston, Texas. You know what, Lee Grant, you and I may be onto something there, Lee. We may be onto something there, Lee Grant. All right, let's get busy. The demise of the Democratic Party is premature. You can say the demise of the Democratic Party establishment is not. The obituary is waiting. The question is whether the progressives and those who continue to find hope in the establishment do the right thing and start electing people working for the people. I want to play you a little piece here, and this little piece will tell you where my head is at, where our head, I think, is. Check it out. We all know that the Democratic Party is getting a pretty bad rep right now. In fact, a lot of people are in states, the 30 states that actually register people by party. The Democrats have lost about 2-point-something million registrations, while the Republicans have gained about 2-point-something million registrations. That's a net of over 4 million shift towards the Republicans, if you want to kind of look at it that way. But the reality is that's not the real answer. The real answer is a lot of the people that are leaving the Democratic Party are people that are just upset that the party continues to lean more towards the neoliberal side, the establishment side. But the establishment is one thing. People are the next. And if you take a look at what happened in New York with Mandami, what it proves is that Zoran is absolutely it's a template that we ought to be looking at. He touches all the buttons that all parties, all the people in all parties are looking for. It doesn't matter that the billionaire class are going to try to hit him on being a democratic socialist. That doesn't matter, because what democratic socialism means to America is exactly what they're asking for. Take the names off, take the labels off. The policies that this guy is putting out there, when he articulates them, because he's a very good communicator, that is what the people want. It is a shame that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, the two leaders of the party, are refusing to wholeheartedly endorse this guy. In fact, they're looking pretty silly. They are not the future of the Democratic Party. The future of the Democratic Party lies with progressives. Punto y final. I want you to listen to this little piece here, and then we'll take it on the other side. It's a very short piece.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been saying, including the New York Magazine, by the way, they had this headline that said the obituaries for the Democratic Party are premature. What is your take on all this?
I think the Democratic Party has a lot of work in front of it. I think the reason a lot of these voters shifted over is for opportunity. I think part of this is Trump is an avatar for them. He stands up for them. The other part of it is that they see the Republicans more generally, and Trump specifically, as a successful businessman who's going to create economic opportunities that allow them to put money on the table for their families. That flies in the face of decades of statistics that show the GDP and the economy has performed better under Democrats, that our economy does better when we embrace diversity, when we embrace inclusion. I think it's also better morally and socially, but you don't have to make that argument on those grounds to people who are put off by that. You can simply say the Democrats have a strong track record of creating opportunities and optimism for people who need it, and get that message out of the hands of the Republicans. I also think that's an animating force in all of this.
So let's be very clear here. There is a Democratic Party, and what the Democratic Party means to the working class, what it means to the middle class. And then there's a Republican Party that survives online, that survives on promising something and delivering everything else delivering all to the wealthy class. That is the choice that we have. All the progressive parties are under the wing of the Democratic Party, like it or not. I mean, that's just in a duopoly. There's not much that is the answer in a duopoly until within that duopoly we do the necessary steps to change it progressively. So therefore, the demise of the party, premature, yes. How do we move forward? Well, New York, I think, has shown how to move forward. Disregard the billionaires, disregard the establishment, and pick the person who speaks to not only to your heart, but speaks to your financial well-being. And then disregard. Answer vociferously those who try to trip you up, like they've been trying to trip up Mamdani for the longest time. But when you have somebody who can communicate the good that progressives represent against the lies and the evil of the right and the establishment, against the policies that move things simply to one direction, that's a winning combination every progressive can learn from. And I just watched Mamdani on yet another interview on CNBC. And let me tell you something. If there is one person who knows to communicate the message, it is this guy. And if other Democrats out there, other progressives out there, if they want a template on how to speak on just about every issue, including issues that are anathema to their beliefs, follow that template, because this guy has what it takes. Absolutely so. And for those who will, for our MAGA folks who refuse to acknowledge the reality that the Republican economic policies are much less robust than the Democratic, let me go ahead and put some numbers out there for you. And again, I know people kind of goes with feelings and not necessarily, but not numbers all of the time. But here's the facts. First, let me just show you some charts. All the way back to Truman. Look at the growth in the economy. This is average annualized GDP growth by term. Truman, Kennedy, Johnson, Carter, Clinton, Obama, all of these guys excel. And remember, Obama came in when we had the crash, when the economy crashed, is when Obama came in. Remember also when the economy started crashing under Bush 1, Clinton came in. all of them better economists. Look at the blue lines. Look at the red lines. Average annualized GDP growth by presidency. Look at the comparisons. It's all there. It does better under Democrats. And let's get the actual numbers now. Princeton economists Alan Binder and Mark Watson found that annual real GDP growth averaged 4.33% under Democrats versus 2.54% under Republicans, a substantial gap of 1.8%. That is huge. That is almost 30-something, 40% more under Democratic rule. Democrats need to start articulating that they are much better for the economy than Republicans. Similar findings from the Economic Policy Institute showed GDP growth about 1.2 percentage points faster during Democratic administration. That's 3.79 versus 2.6. The Belfer Center reports 4.23 versus 2.36, reinforcing the consistent Democratic advantage. These are numbers. These are how the economy performs. Therefore, guys, disregard what you hear about how great economists work under Republicans. It's just false. It's just talking points. And Democrats are terrible in explaining that these talking points are false. Job creation. Since World War II, Democratic presidents have overseen about 70.5 million jobs compared to 29 million jobs under Republicans, roughly 2.4 times job creations under Democrats than under Republicans. Eat that, my dear brothers and sisters. Mike Cisak, are you listening? All right. We also have from the JEC data. Job growth under Democrats total 50 million versus 17 million under Republican presidents, is more than 3 times. Come on now, let's keep it up. The Urban Milwaukee chart highlights that every Democratic president saw a drop in unemployment, while 6 of 7 Republicans saw rises, with an average gap of 3.5 percentage points. These are facts, not talking points. These are numbers. You can go to the Bureau of Statistics and find it out. The BLS, go look it up. It's there, my dear CSAC. But you guys can't accept that the Republican Party is a failure, right? Oh, even though you do very well under Democratic leadership. You do very well under Democratic leadership. Let's continue. Broader economic indicators, recessions. 10 of the 11 post-World War II recessions began under what? Republican governments. I repeat, 10 of the 11 recessions in the post-World War II era began under Republican president. In all of everything that we do, we need to go out there and point these things out day in and day out. By the way, these statistics that I'm doing here didn't come from a party, or these are just looking at the numbers, okay? Income growth. According to Bartels, poor families saw over 4 times as much income growth under Democratic administration compared to Republican ones. And we even saw that when Donald Trump, look at what happened. Biden came in, instituted policies that pulled children out of poverty by over 50%. And as soon as the Republicans entered the Congress and changed the policies, the poverty rate of the children, the people that you guys say you love, Democrats or Republicans say they believe in the sanctity of life and they believe in taking care of our kids. Yet their policies immediately threw kids into poverty. Okay? I'm giving you the numbers. You can copy the screen, guys. All right, investment and inflation. Studies note higher business investment and slightly lower inflation rates under whom? Democrats, as well as faster growth in family incomes at the bottom quintile. Look, there's no magic to why these results occur. Republicans believe in austerity, tax cuts for wealthy people, And let me give you the economic rationale behind these numbers. You don't only put these numbers out. It's not enough to just tell you these numbers. Really, it's not enough. You have to say why these numbers are consistent with Democrats. And that is because of how economics work. The policies that put monies into the hands of the working class, because the working class has something called a higher, and listen to this, this is going to be a minor economic class. Poor people, middle class folk have a higher propensity to spend. The marginal propensity of that person increases. And thus, if you put monies in the hands of poorer people, people that need more, there's an economic term now, the marginal propensity to consume. They have a larger marginal propensity to consume than rich folk. So that said, if you give money to rich folks, that means nothing to them because if you give them tax cuts and all, because they're already rich, there is nothing that they're not going to spend or buy. So whatever extra money you give them, they throw it into another country, they throw it into a bank. It does nothing. And people say, well, they'll build more factories. Why the hell will they build more factories if they don't have people that have the money to buy what that factory will produce? Supply side economics is a fraud, and the numbers prove it. The reason Democrats do better than Republicans on the economy is not because they're Democrats. It's because of the policies that actually go out there and make people involve themselves into the economy, and the speed at which the economy moves, people buying things, that is what creates an incentive for those who would build a factory, those who would innovate to do more. This is not rocket science. So it's not like, oh, because you're a Democrat, the economy does better. It's because the policies foment economic activity. Okay? All right. Contemporary insights. An analysis from Democratic Alliance source notes the U.S. economy grew faster overall under Democratic presidents. Job growth, unemployment, and manufacturing all favor Democratic terms, particularly Biden's. What did Biden do? He injected a whole lot of money with the IRA as well as with the CHIPS Act. He put a whole lot of money into things that would generate. And you know what? And it did. Our economy was the only economy that didn't fall into recession, the only economy that does right. Okay? So let's be clear here, folks. Don't let people who lie to you about, the austerity, tax cuts and all of that fool you. It's all a sham. It's all a sham, and it does nothing for people. Vox emphasizes that despite public perception favoring Republicans on economic competence, real data, GDP, job creation, stock market points to much better performance under Democrats. So let's be clear, folks. I want you all to take those numbers. And whenever you are in conversations with MAGA, do it nicely, respectfully, but send them to the numbers. All right. Let me read some of what you say before I go to the next video. But let's say May Wood says, I've always been fascinated by how and why Republicans and idiots can continue to believe and insist that Republicans are better on the economy than Democrats. No data, no evidence, no examples, just their insistence. All the evidence, all the data, every example says exactly the opposite. Exactly. And that's all. And again, when you have people trying to convince you otherwise, disregard it. They're just hyperventilating. Patrick Magnus says, every Republican president over the last 100 years has had a recession. Shame, right? Mike Cisak said, those talking points are false as they don't take into account policies and when they come into effect. That's BS. We run the numbers in every form possible. In every form possible, we've run the numbers. And the fact of the matter is, that Republicans are horrendous on the economy. They are horrendous on people's personal economy. They're simply horrendous on just about everything that they do. They hate government because they're not good at it. They're just not good at it. They're not good at it. Okay. Michael Randy says, red hats refuse to accept statistics that go against their beliefs. Face it. Republicans suck on economics. Republicans care about the wealthy getting wealthier. But such makes for really bad economics for everyone else. And you know what? It's so funny, Mike. We have poor people in this chat defending the guy who's taking taking food out of their mouth and money out of their pockets. It's amazing, right? Amazing. All right. Bruce Pollard says neoliberalism is a political and economic theory that advocates for free market capitalism with minimal government intervention, emphasizing private sector control, free trade, and the reduction of public social services. Emerging as a response to the perceived failures of early economic policies, it promotes ideas like deregulation and privatization, while proponents argue it leads to economic growth and individual liberty. Critics contend it increases social and economic inequality by weakening social safety nets. And look, Bruce, that definition is true. Very true. And that definition has failed. That has failed. By us giving full control to the private sector, to the capitalists, what we have done is exactly what capitalism does: extract and monopolize. And look, the most recent king of capitalism said it. Let's go ahead and do this. If your theory says the following, and I want you guys to listen in detail. Milton Friedman says this following. You can look it up on Wikipedia in the 70s and for the newspaper article that he wrote in the New York Times. Just read that New York Times article. He said, corporations own the executives in a corporations. Their only responsibility is not to social issues. It's not to issues of fairness. It is to maximize the profits of the shareholders, for which the shareholders reward them with good bonuses. That's all. There's no heart, nothing. Maximizing, what is involved in maximizing shareholder value? Monopoly, right? And without government, you get monopolies, right? Because unless government put the brakes on a company from growing excessively, by definition, you ought to buy your competition so you can raise prices and maximize your profits. That's capitalism. Very fair. They're playing by the rules. Okay. Also, you do whatever you can to get away with to maximize the profits of the shareholder. And isn't that what we do? Look at healthcare. We don't care about your health. You are a token to make more money for an insurance company. You are a token to make more money for a hospital. You are a token for all these things. Look, when you go to the doctor, when you get into an emergency, the first thing they ask for, give me all the paperwork as far as how we are going to get paid. Look at why we don't have drugs for certain diseases. They don't make enough money. That's capitalism. That's the right thing for them to do. They're doing their jobs, but that economic system fails you because within that economic system, there's no humanity. None, no humanity. So therefore, government, we the people, are the only way to institute humanity into an economic system. And that's what people like Dammy, that's what people like the DSA understand. That is what they understand. You can't put it up. Look, people always say, get government out of the way. So government is elected. If you don't like what government is doing, you can unelect them in a democracy, as long as we can keep our democracy. But if you don't like what Exxon is doing, and you have a weak government that Exxon pays off, if they want to keep MBT into the soil, you can't do a damn thing about it. If they want to keep dirty water, as they did in Michigan, they can do it. That's what they do. Remember the rivers in Ohio until the government came in. Remember the pollution on what is it, 3 Mile Island? Not 3 Mile Island, on Love Island or Love Canal until the government came in. Remember, the only people that owe you an explanation are we the people, your government, not the private companies. If the government can't do anything well, really? The government or we the people, we do a lot of things very well. We do a lot of things very well. The people who fail more so than government has always been the capitalists. But what they're good at is putting the blame elsewhere. When we had the big crash in 2008, it was a direct result of, and let me tell you, it absolutely was a direct result of these financial instruments created by people that make absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. They create instruments that insure, right? So that they could have these horrendous mortgage bonds that really should be worth nothing or worth little to give them a high value. That's what they did. And that class of cards just came crashing down. That's what they did, the private sector. That's not what government did. That's what the capitalists did. They created false instruments, not real monies, false bonds, these things were things that are based on nothing. They created that. Then in 2008, the economy crashed, credit locked up. Why? Again, because of what the private sector created. Okay. Who did they come crying to liquidate them? We expanded the money supply for them. Right? We eased the money supply for them. Think about that. And then, not one of these bankers, except for one Indian guy that went to jail. None of them went to jail. Hey, John, talk to me. Oh, wait, why isn't it answering? Come on. Hey, John, call back again. For some reason, our system didn't answer the phone. Call back again. Let's see if it'll work this time. I don't know what happened there, but I was supposed to be able to answer it, but I couldn't. Call back again, John. Call back again. Anyway, so it is important for us to understand these concepts. Don't be fooled by or be scared. They want you to be scared of Mandami. He's a democratic socialist. DSA. Well, people are smarting up. They're saying, wait a minute. Let's see if I can answer that now. Oh, it looks like it worked this time. All right. How you doing, John?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to say, unfortunately, they have brainwashed the population to vote against their own interests. Really the bottom line. And people do need to understand that economics, and it's not that difficult to understand. The information is out there. You covered quite a bit. And the only successful democracies, I would say, like that are now very successful are ones that have a lot of regulation on their economies. I'm talking about Finland, Denmark, and Norway. A lot of the Northern European countries, and that's why they don't have the kinds of issues that we have. And in this, they should have been punished in 2008, and instead they were rewarded. The same people that crashed the economy, in a way, they were rewarded by us bailing them out. there is a flow of money in this country, and it's not going from, it's not trickling down, it's trickling up. So we should think of it that way.
Yeah, the reality is, and it's not up for, you know what, John? When we have two chats, and the other chat that I have, we have some of our MAGA folks in there talking about, they simply cannot understand that the numbers are absolute. The numbers just tell you something, right? If you get income inequality
Yep.
If you are getting income inequality and wealth disparity, that tells you that your economic system is failing, and that you have to put in regulations in there that prevent that. Right now, what we do in America is we reward lazy, and the lazy ones I'm talking about are not the middle class folk. The lazy ones are the billionaires and the multimillionaires. They are the lazy ones. Everybody does work for them. I mean, people talk about, look at the infrastructure that we built. Yeah, we built it, but we can't use the damn thing. How many of you can go into those skyscrapers in Detroit, in Houston, all these other places? No one. You just built it for them. Nope. You're enslaved by them. And then you have these folks out there trying to defend it,
Yeah, and it's just pathetic that, it's like we're our own executioner. We're ripped off, and then we're our own executioner, just creating, a disaster. No, Republicans are not for life. They're for birth, and only for one reason and one reason only, that they can use life. That's what they're good at, using other people. That's what they're really good at. Yeah,
they want all these babies for. Thank you very much, John. They want you have a wonderful weekend. They want all these babies for wars. They want all these babies because you don't get enough babies. You can't send them to war, right? So you got to keep your war population up and growing. Hey, but here's the deal, folks. Before I forget, I need to tell you, on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, I repeat, on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, I'm having a correspondent in Ukraine, in Kiev. In Kiev, Ukraine, we're going to be doing a live session with him, and you will be able to call in. He's been living through the bombings, he's been living through the politics, etc., and he's been reporting extensively out of Ukraine. So I will have him on Sunday at 11. I'm going to write up a few things and put it out there to kind of advertise it, but. Please, when I do that, share and let folks know that we're going to be covering the reality. This isn't going to be ABC, CBS. This is an independent journalist that will be talking about this issue. And the reason we have to do it, Eric, the reason we got to do it at 11 a.m. is because, again, the time difference between here and Ukraine. And, at that time, he's able to get good internet access and that sort of thing. So, whatever the case is, it'll be taped. So we'll be taking phone calls if anybody wants to ask him any questions specifically as well. So remember, that's going to be Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. And this is going to be Chris Sampson, who is a correspondent out there. Out there. Anyway, Maywood says, well, let's see if the government policies cause the upper crust incomes to go up while the workers and the middle class wages come down, then the economy is doing poorly, period. Absolutely. And that we've had that for now decades, right? We have had that reality now experience for decades. So let's be clear about that. All right. I got one more video that I got to show you. And this one is, hey, Trump has gone Mao Zedong. He has gone Mao Zedong with a touch or a hint of Marx. Yeah, we're talking about Trump. Check this out. Well, it seems like the capitalists are all concerned now. Donald Trump has gone all Mao Zedong. It's gone all Karl Marx on us. And, the capitalist folks have not yet spoken up, but in private, they're sending out their spokesmen to really start to get on Trump. Hey, how can you do that? Whatever happened to the free, unfettered markets, Mr. Trump, because you have to remember what Trump is doing now, right? And by the way, I want to be clear here, because I'm not a capitalist. I'm a free enterpriser. I believe in free enterprise. I believe in small government, or rather, not small government. I believe in right-sized government larger than any corporation, because again, it should be able to, we the people should control our own economy. I also believe that if the government I'll wait on that part before I go into it. I tell you what, let's listen to this discussion between Lawrence O'Donnell and this capitalist, and then I'll give you my side of the story. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
Donald Trump happily labels every Democratic politician in America opponents of free enterprise and socialists.
Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
But our next guest, Yale Management School Senior Associate Dean Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, writes in Fortune magazine, unlike any leader of any free market economy around the world, President Trump has seized control of private enterprises' strategic decision-making and investment policies while invading corporate boardrooms so that he may dictate leadership, staffing, punish corporate critics, and demand public compliance with his political agenda. This is far more dangerous to capitalism than a city-run grocery store. Rather than pursue standard laissez-faire conservative economic policies, MAGA has gone Marxist and even increasingly Maoist. Joining us now is Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, Senior Associate Dean at the Yale School of Management and a CNBC contributor. Jeff, this is the piece I've been waiting for. I've been watching Donald Trump's interference with businesses directly, hands-on interference with private enterprise. Haven't gotten to it in all the things we've had to cover here, but you have covered it so thoroughly for Fortune. Give us the highlights. These are things we've never seen before in American government, some of the things he's done.
It's unparalleled. And it is exactly the shrieking irony that you point out as he projects so many things onto others, which is, of course, psychologically what he's doing himself. This does it right from the top. I should point out that several CEOs, real titans of industry that joined me in co-authoring this piece, John Pepper, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble and former chairman of Disney, and Anne Mulcahy, who has turned around Xerox, and great boards like Citigroup and others that she's been on, Johnson & Johnson, Bill George, Medtronic, Goldman Sachs and Exxon, and he's been on and Laura Tyson, the great economist, is that they're all stunned. And we've heard from a tidal wave of current CEOs saying they've been waiting for somebody to call this out. The ideological inconsistencies, just like you said, whether or not it's Adam Smith or Friedrich Hayek or Ayn Rand or Paul, or whomever, Milton Friedman, whoever people love to wave around as their cult-like celebration of the separation of sectors, this violates all that. And then the corporate shakedowns, as we've seen with Intel and others, and NVIDIA and AMD demanding a stake in these businesses, their competitors aren't so happy. That means if you're Broadcom or if you're Qualcomm and you actually have a larger percent of your business coming out of China, the government's working against you. You're competing against your own government. That weird shakedown. And they sometimes will turn to TARP as an example. That was a handful of companies. They were facing bankruptcy. They were backbone companies, and they had a short-term termination. It was all going to be paid out and with profits within 5 years. So they're not parallel at all. Now, weirdly, Trump, who you like to point out is nowhere near the great deal maker and genius he thinks he is, he paid out twice as much as Bush did in the TARP bailout during COVID, and he didn't take any ownership stakes in anything then. Why now is it so obvious?
But now he's reaching into these individual companies in ways we've never seen before any president attempt to do, telling them where they can do business, how they can do business, and in effect threatening them. Companies want a merger, they have to come to Donald Trump. If a company wants to merger, they literally, in one case, had to pay Donald Trump in order to perform a merger.
It's a shakedown. It's a form of extortion for sure. To be told at Coca-Cola what kind of the ingredients they need to put in their drinks, based on what Donald Trump says, not based on on the science is ludicrous. They complied at Coca-Cola, but it's crazy. We're seeing that across the board. What technological investments, what parts of the world to go in, and who's he to call these shots? He's certainly not been a great businessman himself, as you point out in those 4 bankruptcies he's taken his himself through. We've never seen anything like this. It blurs the sectors. It undermines the whole idea of the free market system, leading to incentives for innovation, and creates this large central planning, commandant type group. It's ridiculous.
All right. So there are 2 things here, right? 2 things. And they kind of mulch it all together. And I need to get all of you to understand it the right way. There is the issue with Intel and ownership, where Trump wants to have ownership in Intel. After all, Intel is getting quite a few $1 billion in grants, in subsidies to reinvest here in America. Let's put that one aside, but remember that one. But there's also where Donald Trump wants all these AI, these companies that are sending chips for other countries to do AI, to collect, to do what's called revenue sharing. Well, that part sounds a lot like some sort of a fascist, communist type of a thing. And I use the communist thing wrong. That's a wrong word. That seems like sort of a fascist entity where, in order for us to do business, a private company to do business, that the government wants to get a piece of the action. Hey, guess what? I don't support that. I don't support that if private companies make a product and other companies want to go ahead and buy it, that they have to revenue share with the government. I do believe in taxes now. In other words, right size taxes I do believe in. But to say that whatever revenue you make, etc., some of it has got to go to the government, I'm not into that. That's kind of Mao. That is right? But, like I said, Donald Trump has a way of mixing things, right? The thing about the subsidies, the billions of dollars that went in subsidies in I think it was the Chips and Something Act, where these wealthy chip companies got billions of dollars of your money. I do think it is not that the government should get an ownership stake for investing in allowing that company to build. Of course. But I feel the same way about drug companies. We develop the drugs, and these companies, after the concept of the drug has been determined in universities, etc., paid for by United States tax dollars, and then marketed by these big drug companies who then sock it to us by charging us a whole lot of money for these drugs that we originally developed, that we provided the intellect to develop, and then the capitalists in these companies make all the money. The shareholders of the companies make all the money. The executives get all the bonuses, and we, the people, pay the price to enrich them. And the engineers in those companies just make their regular salaries. Oh, no. We developed those drugs. We should have an ownership stake in those companies. We should revenue share with those companies where we invested our United States taxpayer dollars to make these things. So he's right on that. Ownership stake scenario in Intel, for what they're going to get from the United States government, that is absolutely warranted. But this guy that came on to Lawrence, there's something wrong with that. The government involvement in the private sector. No, the private sector wanted the government help. It's amazing, right? When they're given Medicaid, they want everybody, even if you're taking care of a sick person, you're healthy, but you're taking care of a sick person. They want you to go out there and make and work at least 80 hours a month. They want you to go out there and do that, right? But these rich fat cats out there that are getting $10 billion from us, untouched, just our tax. Oh, you don't have to do anything for it. You can go build your factories, inflate the dollar, make the money, make your profits from that. And you pay nothing. but our workers, our Medicaid recipient, our SNAP recipients, these people that have worked their lives off and have hit hard times, we want them to pay. Those poor people must pay. They must work even if they can't, even if circumstances are not opportune. They must work. So again, let's look at it this way. Yeah, Trump has gone not full Mao, full fascist, but with a touch of sensible. And that touch of sensible is, yeah, if we're going to invest in drug well, he didn't say it for drug companies, he said it for Intel. But we should take a look at all the companies that receive subsidies from us and then sell us back the things that we designed, created with the intellect of the taxpayer. Yeah, we should have a stake in all those things. And actually, that would then pay back a lot of what these guys are profiting for on our backs. Folks, let's wake up and let's understand what's really going on out there, because what happened is that is how they sucker us into doing that which need not be done.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.
Well, it is absolutely an investment that pays incalculable dividends, folks. Look, I want to remind, for those of you that have just come, on Sunday at 11 a.m., I will have Chris Sampson, who is a correspondent living in Kiev, Ukraine. He'll be giving us the rundown of what's really happening in Ukraine from a political perspective, from a military perspective, etc. I'm going to have a few questions I'm going to be asking him, bringing him in live, and we will be allowing questions. So I'll have the telephone lines open that you guys can ask him questions. It's going to be done on Substack Live. So if you don't have a Substack Live account right now, get yourself a Substack Live account, because I'll have it open, but get a Substack Live account and check it out. The reason I'm doing it on Substack is let me give you the rundown real quick. We have noticed a lot of throttling on things having to do with Israel, things having to do with Gaza, things having to do with Ukraine, and also listening for keywords. And some people have even been getting their accounts flagged. If your information doesn't square, they'll try to say that you're giving wrong information. Well, I'll have somebody in the belly of the beast coming on, and we have a lot of freedom at Substack Live to do what we want to do, unlike on YouTube, Facebook Live, and other platforms. So we will have Chris Sampson on. Chris Sampson will be with us 11 a.m. on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, and we will be talking about Ukraine from the belly of the beast, directly from Ukraine, and we'll have extensive time. Unlike what you get on network TV, we'll be able to talk to somebody who's actually there, who actually writes for he gets, many of his articles have been picked up by the Ukrainian main English newspaper as well. And, he's worked with guys like, what's the name of the military guy that went out there? Mike, what's his name? Mike Sampson? No, not Mike Sampson. Anyway, he's worked with quite a few of the people you've seen on TV, the generals, etc., on TV, and we'll have him on Sunday. All right, I got to get out of here. But before I get out of here, I want to ask all of you who have the wherewithal to do so to please become paid subscribers of our Substack. As you can see, we make sure and do a whole lot of work and bring you truly fact-based information. A lot of times things that the mainstream media won't tell you. You can become a paid subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I've just put the link in both chats. Please, we cannot do this without you, and we're way behind in signing up memberships. So I ask you as kindly as I can, if you have the wherewithal to get Politics Done Right a coffee, please consider doing so by becoming a paid subscriber at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Got to get out of here. Look, folks, love you all from the depths of my heart. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment